Welcome to the procedure of rapid sequence induction. Before we begin this procedure, you should know what are the indications. First indication is if the patient is coming full stomach for emergency surgery. Second indication, if the patient has increased intragastric pressure which predisposes him to aspiration like obesity or pregnancy. And third is any bowel obstruction in which the patient is obstipated. So, all of these will predispose the patient to aspiration. Now, what are the things we need to keep ready before RSI? Before RSI, patient's consent should be taken. The entire procedure including cricoid pressure should be explained to the patient. Take a wide bore IV line in this patient and start a running pint. Keep your emergency drugs ready along with all the drugs that we will use for induction of anesthesia. The airway equipment and the difficult airway cart should be kept ready. We have skilled help with us to help in case of any anticipated or unanticipated difficult intubation. The machine has been checked, the monitors have been attached to the patient, and we have kept the suction ready and we have checked that it is working. So, these are the basic things that we need to keep ready before RSI. Now, let us have a look at the classic and modified RSI technique. Welcome to this demonstration on USG scanning technique for upper limb blocks. Here we are going to scan the interscalene, the subclavian perivascular, also called as the supraclavicular technique, and the axillary techniques of brachial plexus block. Now, here we have a volunteer with us, Mr. Ankit. Ankit, thank you for coming. We have explained the entire procedure to Ankit, who is our mock patient. We have the ultrasound machine ready. This is the Sonosite S2 machine with the touch screen, and we have our anesthesia technician also ready, Mr. Ashwin. Thank you for coming, Ashwin. We have explained the entire procedure to the patient. We have taken his consent. Our few equipments that are ready are the drugs that we will be giving. Along with that, we have carried out the sterilization of the area of interest along with chlorhexidine, and emergency drugs and airway cart is also ready. We have attached all the monitors to our patient and we have done a checklist of stop before you block. Now, I will show you how to scan for the subclavian perivascular technique. What is the ideal position? The ideal position is that you have a slight back up of 45 degrees. You will ask the patient to move his head to the opposite side. This is the hand that I want anesthetized. This is the position that we want. The patient's head will be turned to the opposite side. This is the hand that I want anesthetized. I will place his hand by the side and I will depress the shoulder slightly so that I have enough space in this area. This is called as the supraclavicular area. Now, for USG guided techniques, you do need to know the landmarks, but ideally, if this is the clavicle, then the first thing that I do is take my vascular probe. Now, vascular probe is used for all superficial structure scanning. The depth of subclavian perivascular or supraclavicular brachial plexus will be around 1 to 3 centimeter. Now, when I use the superficial probe, the first thing I need to do is check the probe pointer. I need to know which side is the pointer. So, if my pointer, as I can see, is on this side and the pointer on the screen is on the upper left side, this will give me an orientation of how to insert my needle. The next thing I need to do is I need to put a sterile cover on this probe. Now, since this is just for the procedure of scanning and teaching, I am not attaching a sterile cover, but ideally you are supposed to put a camera cover or a probe cover, or you can even put a sterile tegaderm. The conducting medium that I am using over here is water based jelly, which will come along with the ultrasound machine. Now, I know that my probe pointer is lateral and this gives me an orientation to the direction when I insert my needle. So, I place the ultrasound probe on the supraclavicular fossa in the middle of it, and this is the picture that I get. So, have a look at this. Can you see there is a pulsatile artery right in between? I can increase the gain and this is the lateral end as the pointer has been placed laterally over here. So, if you see there are a bunch of hypoechoic nerves present here, and this bunch of hypoechoic nerves are my brachial plexus nerves. Let me decrease the depth and show you better. Okay, so this is the maximum depth that can be decreased. So, these hypoechoic nerves are arranged in a bunch, but they are divided into upper trunk, middle trunk and lower trunk. I will freeze the picture over here. Now, as you can see over here, this is the subclavian artery. We confirmed by the fact that it was pulsatile, and you can see these small hypoechoic bunch of nerves present next to it. Since my probe pointer was lateral, it means that this bunch of hypoechoic nerves or the bunch of grapes is lateral to the subclavian artery. Now, anatomically we know that the brachial plexus is arranged posterolaterally to the subclavian artery. So, this corresponds with the anatomy. The white hyperechoic line that you can see is the first rib. What is the importance of the first rib? This first rib guards against my needle entering below it. If my needle enters below the first rib, I can damage my pleura and cause pneumothorax over here. So, when I give the block to the patient, how do I advance my needle? Now, ideally we give 20 ml of 0.75% ropivacaine, or you can give a mixture of 0.5% bupivacaine 10 ml along with 2% of lignocaine adrenaline 10 ml. Once my drug mixture is ready, I connect it to a 100 centimeter tubing and a small 23 gauge needle. The needle will enter from this end and I will go above the subclavian artery. I will aspirate and I will give about 5 ml of the drug here. If the patient gets pain when you are going through the nerves, or if he gets a sudden shock like sensation, or if you feel excessive pressure while injecting the drug, do not inject. You may be intraneural. Once I give 5 ml and cover the upper trunk, the next thing I do is withdraw my needle and come back to this point. This point is the middle trunk. Once I give another 5 ml in the middle trunk, again I withdraw my needle and I come next to the artery. Now, next to the artery somewhere over here is the arrangement of my lower trunk, and this is the most difficult to block because the lower trunk is the one which gets spared as we are scared to go near the artery. So, if you end up sparing the lower trunk, the ulnar distribution of our hand will be not anesthetized. Now, the next thing you need to remember is this subclavian artery is not the only blood vessel that will be present over here. There can be in this area presence of the dorsal scapular artery and the transverse cervical artery. So, how do I exclude the presence of them in the area of my interest? So, I will put the color, and as you can see over here, the subclavian artery is seen. I will try to look for any vessels close by. So, I can see that there are no vessels near. I will release the pressure on my probe and look for any veins that could have gotten collapsed. So, in this patient, I can see that there are absolutely no vessels in the area other than subclavian artery. So, I can easily go and block the brachial plexus over here. This will be safe, and the only intravascular puncture that I should be careful about is in the subclavian artery. So, this is the process of giving a subclavian perivascular block, or also called as supraclavicular technique for brachial plexus block. So, now let us have a look at the sonoanatomy of the interscalene approach to brachial plexus block. So, as you know that I keep my probe pointer lateral always. This is my lateral or the middle scalene muscle. Medially, I have my anterior scalene muscle. So, in between the anterior and the middle scalene, I see a traffic signal appearance as marked by the arrow, and this traffic signal appearance is the area where I want to block. Now, this is nothing but the nerve roots of C5, C6 and C7. And how do you confirm that this is the C7 nerve root? Can you see the big thing over here down? That is nothing but the vertebral artery. So, the vertebral artery is present below the C7 nerve root. Now, you also have to note that the anterior scalene muscle that is there, just above it, there is a small nerve that moves on the upper surface, and that is our phrenic nerve. This is the reason why we can get phrenic nerve palsy in many of these patients, especially if you give a blind block. It is said that if you give large volumes in this interscalene area, almost 100% phrenic nerve block happens. But under ultrasound guidance, if I give small volume, if I give just 8 to 10 ml of the drug, and how is the procedure to do that? I enter from the lateral end, go through the middle scalene muscle, and I reach here in between the C5 and C6, and then in between the C6 and C7 nerve roots. So, when I do that, I give my drug on the lateral surface and it spreads through in between the nerve roots. Now, I have spared this entire area where my phrenic is supposed to be above the anterior scalene, and that makes sure that I do not block the phrenic nerve. Use of interscalene nerve block, it can be used for any surgeries of the shoulder, proximal humerus and lateral end of the clavicle. Now again, let us have a look at how do we scan for the interscalene brachial plexus block. Remember that we are going to be blocking the C5, C6, C7 nerve roots over here. Indication is any surgery of the proximal humerus, of the shoulder and of the lateral part of the clavicle. This is our patient, we keep him in the same position as subclavian perivascular block. Head will be slightly elevated to 45 degrees and the head turned to one side. Hand will be by the side and shoulder slightly depressed to make space in this area. The next thing we will do is first see that this probe pointer is lateral, and then place the vascular probe, or also called as the high frequency linear probe, onto the area of supraclavicular brachial plexus block. Now I am going to teach you the trace back technique over here. In the trace back technique, we look at the subclavian perivascular, we look at the subclavian artery, we can see the bunch of grapes of the upper, middle and lower trunk arranged around it, and then we slightly give a cranial tilt to the probe and we start moving up. So when you start moving up, just follow this bunch. Can you see the bunch is now arranging itself into the nerve roots, okay. So this is where I get my traffic signal sign. This is my traffic signal sign. As you can see, on the lateral side I have the middle scalene muscle and I have the anterior scalene muscle, and here I can see the C5, C6 and C7 nerve roots. Some of these nerve roots have divided into anterior and posterior nerve roots, and that is why we can see multiple ones over here. The artery that you can see over here, the big artery below C7 is the vertebral artery. Now the other technique that we have other than trace back is to place the ultrasound probe on the cricoid cartilage, and then I start moving laterally. When I move laterally, what is the structure that we see here? Yes, absolutely, that is the carotid artery. Then I release the pressure. I do not put too much pressure, and as I move laterally, I should be able to see the traffic signal sign in between the anterior and middle scalene muscle. So as you can see here, this is your vertebral artery which is pulsating. These are the C5, C6, C7 nerve roots, traffic signal sign. This on the medial part is my anterior scalene muscle, and this on the lateral part is my middle scalene muscle. So that is the second way to find the interscalene groove to block the brachial plexus nerve roots over there. Okay. So let us have a look at the sonoanatomy of the axillary approach to the brachial plexus block. Now by the time we reach the axilla, what we are able to see are the individual nerves. In the axillary approach, we are focusing on three nerves. One is the median nerve, ulnar nerve and radial nerve. Now any procedures carried below the elbow, we can block using the axillary approach to brachial plexus. So if you have a look at the sonoanatomy here, where I have placed the pointer, this is nothing but my axillary artery. Now how do I know this is axillary artery? While scanning I showed you that it was pulsating, and also by putting the color Doppler you can have a look at the artery. When I release the pressure, and that is absolutely important to release the pressure during this block, because there are many small axillary veins that could be present in the site of block. So as you can see over here, this is one of the axillary veins and this is the second axillary vein. Again you can confirm them by putting color Doppler. Now ideally they say that at 10 o'clock position I should be having my median nerve. At 5 to 6 o'clock position, the small hypoechoic thing that you can see over here is my radial nerve, and in between the axillary artery and the axillary vein, somewhere here I should be able to find my ulnar nerve. If you are not able to exactly see the nerves, the thing that you can do is enter from here with your needle, aspirate, give a little bit of local anesthetic and try to delineate the nerves. The nerves start floating in the local anesthetic as you give the drug. So let us have a look at how that is done. 3 injections will be given in this case. For median nerve, I will give an injection of about 5 ml of local anesthetic at 10 o'clock position. For the radial nerve, for the radial nerve, I will give about 5 ml of local anesthetic here at the 6 o'clock position, and for the ulnar nerve, I will give 5 ml between the axillary artery and the axillary vein, somewhere here. Now what is the position for axillary block? So if you see, I have placed the hand of this patient slightly externally rotated and abducted, and I have to keep the axilla free for this block. Along with that, the position of the table is straight. The probe, if you see, the probe pointer has to be placed upwards towards me, and this is the picture that I should get. Now I have placed the probe exactly in the axillary crease for this, and as you can see over here, there is a pulsating structure. That pulsating structure is the axillary artery. Now you can't exactly see the axillary vein over here because I have applied pressure. When I release the pressure, you can see a vein that becomes prominent. When I put the pressure, you see that the vein goes away. Again I release the pressure and the vein becomes prominent. So when I am giving the block, I have to make sure that I put minimal amount of pressure because my vein should be visible in the picture. How do I confirm my axillary artery and vein? And there are many vascular structures in this area. So I put color, and as you can see, the color is showing me the red artery and the blue vein. I also feel that this structure up is a vascular structure, but it is not showing any color. Now how do I know where to give my injection for the different nerves? So if you see over here, on the 10 o'clock position, I will block my median nerve. In between the artery and the vein will be my ulnar nerve, and 6 o'clock position to the artery will be my radial nerve. मस्कुलोक्यूटेनस दिख रहा है क्या? देखते हैं. Okay. Now I again put pressure and I move the probe a little bit anteriorly towards myself, and I look at the coracobrachialis muscle. So here you can see the coracobrachialis muscle, and in the substance of the coracobrachialis, here at the conjoint tendon you see an eye. This eye is nothing but the musculocutaneous nerve. So if I want to block the musculocutaneous nerve, I give the injection over here. So this is how I block median ulnar radial as well as musculocutaneous nerve in the axillary approach to brachial plexus block. Now what is the drug that we will be giving for this procedure? So we can take about 15 to 20 ml of local anesthetic. For anesthesia purposes, we give 0.75% ropivacaine. Remember to give 5 ml at each nerve, median ulnar radial, and 5 ml at musculocutaneous nerve. It is essential to block the musculocutaneous nerve if you are planning to put a tourniquet in these patients.